G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast or on YouTube if you are joining us there. If you are on the podcast, come over to YouTube, type in Rugby League Guru, subscribe, like, comment, plenty of content coming for the off-season 2022 and heading into 2023. We've had a heap of episodes dropping with Jackson Hastings over the last few weeks for the off-season. Me, Maddie and Jacko talking all things rugby league history, answering a heap of cracking questions. About an hour and a half episodes, they're massive, so you'll thoroughly enjoy those. We've got a new one dropping on Sunday night, Sunday, 6 p.m, where we go through the best ball-playing forwards of all time. Personally, I think it's our best one yet, so make sure you come over and have a look at that. Obviously, Jackson Hastings, he's been in the news over the last couple of days, leaving the West Tigers, joining the Newcastle Knights, and David Klemmer, he'll make his way down the highway from Newcastle to the West Tigers, so an interesting player swap there that has been confirmed over the last few days, so very exciting times for both clubs. We spoke about it on Bloke in a Bar this week about who won that trade. I think it's pretty even, to be honest with you. I'd probably rather be Newcastle simply because you're gaining a halfback. I'm probably a little bit biased, though, to be fair. Welcoming in my co-host, Matty the Waterboy. What are your thoughts on this trade, mate?
What's going on, Guru? I actually think it's not really a fair question to say who won. I just think they both won. Both clubs got what they needed to get, and as a non-fan of both teams, I look at both of these results and I think, yeah, they've improved their situation for next year for sure.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with the West Tigers, I've seen a lot of people bagging the Tigers and everything for letting go of Jackson, and I understand where you're coming from, but I do think the Tigers fans just need to keep in mind that Jackson is a great player, absolutely love him. He was great when he played halfback for them last year. Just remember a couple of years ago when Nathan Cleary had all the ability, hadn't quite put it together. They signed Api Curacao and he's completely turned the career of Nathan Cleary around. So I'm not saying he's going to have the same impact on Luke Brooks, but it's not like the Tigers have let go of Jackson and done nothing else. They have recruited a number of really good guys. We know that if you're going to be a good halfback, you need to play behind a good pack, and the West Tigers, they've definitely done that. So personally, I think the Tigers, despite me not agreeing with them letting go of Jackson Hastings, if Luke Brooks is their guy, they have backed him in and they've done everything they can possibly do for him. They've gone and got him a world-class 9, and they've got him a world-class forward pack as well. So I know Tigers fans getting a little bit doom and gloom off the back of this. I really don't think it's the train wreck people are acting like. It's not the decision I would have made, don't get me wrong, but I don't think the Tigers are in a bad spot off the back of this. But the Newcastle Knights...
Hang on, I will jump in there.
Yeah, go.
If they end up getting Johnny Bateman, look how they've recruited for this year.
Yep.
They've got Coruscant, they've got Papali'i, they've got Klemmer, and then they'll get Johnny Bateman. Like, yes, they let go of Jackson Hastings, but as Timmy said on the podcast on Monday, 3 doesn't go into 2. The Tigers are in a much better position than I thought they were a couple of weeks ago, and certainly a year ago.
They're in the best position they've been in a long time,
for sure.
Realistically. I don't think there's any doubting that. If Johnny Bateman does join, if John Bateman doesn't join, they're running out with a pack of, Klemmer, Isaiah Papali'i, Api Curacao, Joe Hoffengawi was sensational last year.
12 comes back.
Sean Blaw's going to come back from injury as well.
He is a fucking weapon.
And mate, I would if they get Johnny Bateman, I think it'll be a sensational signing. But I think they've also got to be careful of stunting the growth of Sean Blaw, because I think he could be. Have you had a bit to do with him at New South Wales?
Yeah, he was like the 16s captain, 18s captain. Like he was the man coming through.
Yeah. So look, I understand Tigers fans getting upset with losing Jackson Hastings. I get it 100%. But at the end of the day, you weren't going to play him at halfback anyway. You were going to play Luke Brooks, and now you've got another world-class forward coming into that side. I mean, I understand why Tigers fans are upset, Matty, but they really aren't in a dreadful spot at the end of the day.
Nah, I think I'd be stoked with what's happened at the time. Like, I know it's not ideal. Like, Hastings was one of the few shining lights of last year, but you got to look bigger picture. Hastings to Newcastle is just better for everyone. It's better for Hastings. It's better for the Knights. I don't know if it's better for the Tigers, but it kind of is at the same time. They get a world-class forward. I just think everyone in this situation has won.
Yeah, I don't think there's any losers coming out of this. But I will say this, as much as I like the Tigers side heading into next year and I like their pack, there's a couple more pieces that need to fall into place there. Mate, I'll tell you what, Matty, I love the look of this Newcastle Knights side. The more I look at it, the more I like it. I was having a look at some betting agencies the other day. They're $6.50 to make the 8. The Dolphins are at 6.
Wow, really?
I cannot believe it. And that was yesterday, to be fair. I got on it. I would advise that if it is still there, have a whack at it. And look, am I super confident Knights are going to make the 8? No, I'm not. but I don't think they'll be too far off. And I reckon 650 is huge value there. When you have a look through their side, they're putting it together pretty nicely. And you've obviously got Hastings joining, and I think he will be the guy that will dominate the headlines, and so he should. He's the halfback coming into the club. Mate, I reckon Adam Elliot, I reckon he could be the most underrated signing heading into 2023.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. They've kind of flown under the radar, the Knights, a little bit with who they've signed. Like, I know they let like Barnett and now Klemmer have gone, but like they didn't have probably 650 is probably because they didn't have any halves.
Yeah.
A day ago, almost. So, and that, I'm not trying to disrespect the people that were there. It's just like they didn't have a top quality NRL halfback like Jackson Hastings. So, yeah, 650, not bad.
Mate, I'm all over it like a fucking rash, let me tell you. Now, the other thing I'll say about Newcastle is, and we're going to go through, in our opinion, their best 17 for 2023 in just a moment. For me, I think this season comes down to two things. And for me, there's a lot of things in this team I know how it's going to play out. I know what I'm going to get out of Jackson Hastings. I know what I'm going to get out of Jaden Brayley. I know what I'm going to get out of the pack in general. I love the back row. It's the front row for me. Now, they've got two State of Origin caliber front rowers there. The two Saifiti boys, who I'm a huge fan of. There's no doubt whatsoever, though, that Klemmer, he's been the premier front row at Newcastle for the last 2 years or so. So the Saifiti boys, they've been great so far in their career. But, Matty, I would argue that they definitely need to take that next step. They need to really become the alphas that Newcastle need them to be. And for me, I think that's probably the biggest obstacle they face. I believe in these Saifiti boys. I've always backed them when they've been picked for Origin and these sort of things. I'm a big believer, but they do need to take an extra step, don't they?
100% they do. But the good news is Jacob Saifiti made Origin last year and won Player of the Year before, and Daniel Saifiti killed it. Well, has been killing it, but certainly killed it from like 2019 onwards. So we know they can do it. And I think now that Klemmer's gone, Klemmer was their leader, they know they'll need to be the alphas.
You know what I love about these two as well? I think they play their best footy when they're on the field together.
Yeah, for sure.
I think they bounce. They sort of remind me of, like Nathan and Jason Kalis when they used to be playing for the Kiwis together. When one was on the front foot, the other one would follow. It's almost like they would compete with each other in that 20-minute period. Obviously, when those guys come off, the bench is probably a little bit lighter. But, I mean, unless you're the Penrith Panthers, the Sydney Roosters, all benches are a little bit lighter realistically. So a big test for those guys. The other one for me, and, it's the giant elephant in the room wearing a fucking headgear. It's KP. He's just got to stay conscious, doesn't he?
Yeah, pretty much. Who knows if he's going to play 1 or 6, but you're right. He's just got to be on the field somewhere. If there's no point getting on him at 650 if Kalen Ponga doesn't play less than 18 games.
And just on that as well, a lot of reports that he will play 6. I mean, it seems like there's so many reports that I'm starting to buy it, to be honest with you, Matty. And I think that I would play him at 1, but I like him more at 6 this week, knowing that Hastings will be there, than what I did the week before. What are your thoughts?
At the current situation, think I'd still prefer him at 1 because who else are you going to play at 1? At least they've got Kurt Mann and Tyson Gamble who can play 6. I know you'd rather like the halves partnership be Ponga and Hastings, but I think there's a tiny bit more depth there. If they go and find a fullback before the season starts, then great. Maybe put Kalen Ponga at 6 because he can do it. He can do anything. It's Kalen Ponga. He just got to stay on the field. If it came down to it, I'd rather him not make all those tackles and stay at fullback, but yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? And that's what I was going to bring up next. Regardless of if Jackson Hastings is next to him or if I'm fucking next to him, it's defense that doesn't change.
Yeah.
He's still going to have a lot of traffic sent his way. Concussions have been the issue over the last few years. So in attack, I like him at 6 more now than what I did last week before they had a halfback.
I definitely agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
So that's going to be the big question. And look, if the rumours are true that he will play 5'8", which it sounds that way, you would have to assume the Knights, they're going to have to go out and buy someone to play fullback. Rumours going around are that Lockie Miller, he could join from the Cronulla Sharks. That's all rumours, not confirmed at all. But
I saw that on Twitter, and I think Barry Toohey commented on it, and he's pretty reliable up there.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't post it, but I think he replied to it like with a cheeky comment. So maybe where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know.
And I mean, when you look at that situation, Matty, Lockie Miller, he's down at the Cronulla Sharks. He made his debut. It was sensational, but thought it was pretty evident by the back end of the season that their second choice fullback after Will Kennedy, it seemingly is Dykes.
Yeah, for sure. Dykes, I think the Sharks are putting a lot into Dykes. I heard that the Dolphins threw a bit at Dykes and he said no, he wanted to stay with Cronulla. So.
Okay. Well, if so, even more reasoning. I do think there's a good chance they will get Miller. I know that I actually worked with Miller's wife a couple of years ago, and we worked also with Heimel Hunt's wife, so they're good friends as well. So I probably lean towards Miller will land up there. I think it makes sense for Newcastle. I think they'd get him on a good wicket. I think it makes sense for Miller, starting fullback outside Jackson Hastings and Kalen Ponga.
Yeah. If you put Miller, let's just for argument's sake say Miller signs, suddenly I really like it. Like, I like Miller. I like Ponga and Hastings. The half is great. Like, obviously the defense we just spoke about. Besides that, and then you got Jaden Brayley. So if they get Lockie Miller or an equivalent, they're looking good.
And I wonder if, and you know, I'm not sure if KP would want to do this, being the competitor KP is, but I mean, him defending at 5'8", you can hide him a little bit. You could shift him out wide. You could swap him with Miller some sets. Like, there are certain ways to be able to hide guys in defence, obviously. So there is ways that they could try and work their way around what we're talking about. But at the end of the day, KP being KP, he's going to put his body in spots that he probably shouldn't because it's Kalen Ponga. So it is always going to be the risk playing him at 5'8". But
I wonder, you know what? Just on that, because I totally agree. There's no way Kalen Ponga is going to shy away from anything. But if they do play him at 6, maybe they'll sit him down and say, hey, if you want to play 6 and for the good of this team, then we might have to hide you in defence somehow. And maybe he'll get taken out of his hands a little bit.
Yeah, maybe you'll have to wear a little bit of ego here. Because, I mean, KP, as I said, KP being KP, he won't be able to, he won't want to hide in defence.
No way.
He'll want to show a jersey. And, I mean, that's part of what the Newcastle Knights are. And when they've been their most successful, no one hides away from defence. You talk. They've obviously got, in my opinion, the greatest halfback ever. Not only was the greatest halfback ever, he's the greatest defensive half ever. Full stop.
He was smacked people like he was a back rower.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with KP, he'll know that his halfback, Jackson Hastings, he's not going to hide away from anything. He showed last year he was happy to play lock. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting how that plays out. Let's go through their team, Matty, as it stands, and let's run with what you said. So at fullback, let's say they sign Lockie Miller, which I think is pretty likely. It all just makes sense. I can't really think of any reason why this one wouldn't happen, to be honest with you. It makes sense for everyone.
Yep.
So I can imagine Miller there. If it's not Miller, and you have to play KP at 6, they want to play KP at 6, Kurt Mann, you could do much worse, couldn't you?
100%. I think Kurt Mann, he's been good his whole time at the Knights, but I think it was 2 years ago when he played 5'8". He was just fantastic. But when he's not playing there, he's just been a Mr. Fix-It type guy. So, yeah, Kurt Mann will be in the team somewhere because he's one of their best players. But, I mean, it certainly wouldn't be a bad option at fullback.
And Kurt Mann, it's a name that will come up a lot over the next few minutes because we said off camera before, Kurt Mann's probably the second best at every single position at the Newcastle Knights, but he probably can't get in their starting side.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
But he's going to be in every situation we talk about.
Yeah. Such a luxury to have a guy like him, though, like Kurt Mann. So at the moment, Miller at fullback. If not Miller, you got Kurt Mann that we can throw in there. Wingers, Dom Young. He picks himself. Was great last year, improved out of sight over the last 18 months. Great for England in the World Cup.
Yep.
The other wing spot's interesting. Heimel Hunt, Tuala. You've got young Mapalangi as well. So plenty of options there. I sort of lean towards Heimel originally. I know you're a Tuala fan.
I like Tuala. I think I'd probably just go with Tuala, but yeah, I mean, I used to watch Heimel Hunt a lot when he was at Rabbitohs, and he was good for us. I'm a fan of Tuala, but you can't go wrong either way.
I think Tuala's the better finisher. I think Heimel's much better coming out of his own end, though.
Yeah, no
so
doubt.
You make your own decision there. Yeah. The other one that I mentioned is at Mapalangi. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a bait in this team somewhere. Not sure where it'll be. Yeah. Regardless, Heimel Hunt, Tuala, take your pick of wingers there. You'll be okay. Centres, they pick themselves, don't they? Bradman Best, Dane Gagai?
They do, but what if they think about playing Tuala in the centres and putting Gagai on the wing?
I was about to suggest, I reckon they're more likely to play Mapalangi in the centres.
Right.
Gagai on the wing.
I don't think it's too outrageous considering Gagai is one of the best. He could probably be in your best ever Queensland team somewhere, but he struggled defensively last year for sure.
He did, which you know what? I wonder if they'll give Gagai an off season to get himself ready because that was very Dane Gagai.
Yeah.
So it will, but I also think that out of all those guys, the last guy I'd want to kick to and see him return is Dane Gagai as well. So whoever you play in the centres or on the wing, they're all very versatile. I think Bradman Best and Dom Young, I think they're locked into spots, and Gagai's locked into a spot where that is remains to be seen. But I think they've got enough to cover in their outside backs.
Side note: I hope we see the best of Best this year.
Tell me about it. I just hope we see Best.
Yeah.
We just need to see him for 20 weeks straight. So, knock wood. Hopefully we see Bradman Best this year because that left edge could be anything. Okay, KP at 6, Jackson Hastings at 7. We sort of spoke about these two off the top. Is there anything else you want to add about these two? I think if reports are true, they pick themselves there.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy. But should we quickly, if Ponga's fullback?
Yeah, sure. So, if they go down the other avenue, which reports are suggesting they won't, but if they do go KP at fullback, or I also think there's every chance, Matty, that we could get to Origin time, post-Origin, and maybe they've spent 10 weeks, it isn't working.
Yeah.
They move KP back to 1. You have got Tyson Gamble there. You've got Kurt Mann.
Yeah.
So either of those two guys could come into the halves. They'll do plenty of reps in the preseason. They'll be doing plenty of reps during the season. Without looking at the rest of their squad, I would almost suggest that those two, well, I'd probably say that Tyson Gamble, he'll be the reserve grade, 5'8", halfback, something along those lines, probably with Phoenix Crossland. If they don't go with KP at 6, once again, Kurt Mann being there and Tyson Gamble, who comes to the club. Yep. If KP is at 6, for me, Tyson Gamble's not in my 17, which I love Tyson Gamble. I can't fit him in, but I also love that they're going to have to tell Tyson Gamble, you've come down here and you're not in the team. I think he's going to go fucking berserk in reserve grade, and I think he's going to be fantastic Monday to Friday, just giving this club another little competitive edge.
Yep, don't mind that. If Mann's fullback, Tyson's still not in his 17?
If Mann's at fullback, KP, he might be able to get a 14,
Yeah, that could be one way. Yeah.
I think that there's
a lot of
I think that's the only way he gets in.
Yeah.
There's another option that they could potentially keep Kurt Mann at 13 and play Adam Elliot elsewhere, but I think they'd be crazy to do that.
Yeah, no.
I've seen stupider things happen in rugby league though. So anyway, but let's get to our forward pack. The two front rowers, we've spoken about them, the Saifiti boys. I believe they both have to start. I don't think there's any question about that. Jaden Brayley at 9. Mate, I thought his last 6 weeks of last season, once he was back with some fitness under his belt, I thought he was incredible.
He was great. Even his return game, he was fantastic. So, let's just, again, it's so shit. We have to say this so many times, this podcast, but I just hope he stays on the field.
Yeah. And I think the other thing about Brayley is too, you got to remember, he's now going to be 18 months post-ACL. Yeah. And we know that the season...
Was it ACL or was it Achilles?
Oh, was it Achilles?
I think it might have been Achilles.
Okay. Regardless, still, you got to remember the 6 games he played last year, or the couple of good games he played the back end of last season, that was without a preseason under his belt. So he's going to come in ready and raring to go.
Yeah, it was Achilles.
Achilles, was it? Yeah. Huge fan of Brayley.
Yeah, me too.
It's crazy how far just having a good 9 and a good halfback can take you in rugby league. So I'm really excited about those two. The back row, this is where it gets interesting. Tyson Frizzell, he picks himself on one edge. I don't think there is any doubt about that. On the other edge, you got options here. You got Fitzgibbon. You've also got Jack Hetherington that's joined the club, who I always look at Hetherington and think he's a front row forward. But I remember, I think it was for Canterbury last year, he started on the edge. He got in a bit of trouble. I think he got suspended. Then he got injured. There's constantly people in rugby league circles talking about him as an edge guy, and I always think he's not very versatile, but then guys I talk to say the opposite. So I do wonder if maybe we just haven't seen quite the best of Jack Hetherington, or do you think they need him in the front row realistically?
Now that Klemmer's gone, maybe. But to answer your first question, I think we haven't seen the best of Hetherington. I think that's pretty obvious because he's unfortunately spent a lot of time on the sideline. He got suspended at the start. Did he get injured last year?
He got injured, I think, halfway through the year, I think. Yeah.
But everyone I spoke to, so for example, Marco Mealy, I spoke to him once and he was working for Central Coast when Hetherington was at Wild, something like that, whatever it was. And he just said, frothed Hetherington. Said he was such a good player. He's just, he's just a bit of a live wire sometimes. So I think the Knights, whether or not it's his best position, they need a bit of that fuck you mentality, and throwing him in his starting team, him as well as, Adam Elliot, I reckon it's quite good.
The only thing that worries me about Hetherington on the edge, as you said, he is a bit of a live wire, and when you like that in the middle, you can sort of get away with it. When you're defending on an edge, on a specialist edge like that, and I think back rowers on edges, I think they're so underrated about how important they are in defense. We all watch the lines and the decoys in defense, like they control that edge essentially. So that's the only thing I worry about with Hetherington out there. But it wasn't that long ago we were talking about James Fisher-Harris being a similar sort of character, and he just seemingly matured overnight. So hopefully Hetherington, he can sort of turn that around. Might be the sort of guy that you get the Newcastle Knights. Maybe they make a call to a Ben Kennedy, come down, work with this guy for a little bit. So, your Steve Simpson, some of these guys, because I really do think he's got a heap of potential.
Yep.
But if you're not going him, Lockie Fitzgibbon, he can do a job for you.
Yeah.
He
has for the last few years.
He has for the last few years. He doesn't have an extremely high ceiling, but he also doesn't have terribly bad games at the end of the day. So I'd be happy if they went with Fitzy and Frizzell. 13. As I said earlier, I think you'll be the same, Matty. I'd be incredibly disappointed if they didn't go with Adam Elliot. The writing's on the wall, isn't it?
Well, why would you sign him?
Yeah. We watched him at Canterbury for years get fucked around in the front row and the second row. He said he wants to play 13. It's by far and away his best position. Yes, last year, the Canberra Raiders, they found a bit of form when they moved, when Jamal Fogarty came back. But, mate, the more I watched him, the more I was impressed with Adam Elliot. He got moved in to play dummy half a little bit throughout the game, which then meant he went to lock forward with about 50 minutes to go or so. And I thought he was sensational in all those games. And whenever he plays 13 for the Canterbury Bulldogs back in the day, I also thought he was great. So, and I think that, we've got a pod, as I said, we've got a YouTube coming out on Sunday night, 6 p.m, talking about the best ball playing forwards of all time. And we spoke to Jackson Hastings about that. And I remember he actually pointed out Adam Elliott as a guy for Canberra last year who really flew under the radar and was impressive. So I think it just makes sense. And I'd be surprised if you let Hastings pick his 13. I think he'd go Adam Elliott.
Yeah.
So
I just reckon he picks himself. They've signed him for a reason.
Yeah, no brainer. I think it'll be great too. Obviously, you are losing David Klemmer, as we said, and whilst he's playing 13, he'll still be playing through the middle as well, Adam Elliott. Similar to Isaiah Yeo, he knows just when to take it forward, so picks himself there. Our bench, 14, has to be Kurt Mann.
Yep.
I'm just about ready to get 14 tattooed on Kurt Mann, unfortunately. But 14, I think it has to be Kurt Mann, assuming they sign a fullback. Kurt Mann's there for me. He's the other one, mate, that if you wanted to chuck him in the centres too and maybe play Dane Gagai on the wing, you could do that as well. So plenty of options there. I think Kurt Mann has to be in the team somewhere at the moment. 14's looking the best for me. I think then you do need some middles. So I'd be going with Croker and Leo Thompson. They're not superstar forwards, but I think they can do a job there for you. I think they can play. I'll probably only use them for 20 minutes, I reckon, and then you get the Saifiti boys back out there. I think the Saifiti boys, as I said, it's going to be a big season for them. They're going to need a big preseason because they're going to need big minutes. But these two are going to have to be ready to go because as soon as Origin comes, you might lose one Saifiti, you might lose both for all we fucking know. Injury, suspension, anything happens. These two are going to have to be ready to step up. Croker, I'm a big fan of. Leo Thompson, mate, in the little bit we saw last year, he looked pretty damn impressive.
He was great. Yeah.
So I'd have those two middles on the bench. Jersey 17. I think that spot belongs to whoever you don't pick out of Fitzy, Hetherington. You've also got Brodie Jones there as well, who's come in and done a job on a number of occasions. So I think he's probably your depth forward, Brodie Jones.
I guess as well, if you do go with Fitzgibbon, then Hetherington, you've got the option of playing him in the middle if you need to.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not the worst option.
Which I'm kind of leaning towards the more I think about it.
Yeah.
I like that. Which means that...
Maybe certainly to start the year, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean...
Once again, great problem to have.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Unreal problem to have. Jersey 18, I think it will be Tyson Gamble. I don't think he's in this side at the moment. Matty, could you experiment with the possibility of carrying both Kurt Mann and Gamble on the bench?
No.
Or do you think they're too light in the pack?
No, they've just lost Klemmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I would... If Ponga's 6 and they've got Miller or someone and then Mann's 14, then you'd say to Gamble, mate, just rip and tear in New South Wales Cup. If Ponga's fullback, and then I'd have Gamble as my 6, or man, or in other case have Gamble on the bench. But yeah, either way, I wouldn't have both of them on the bench.
It's an unreal spot to be in that, if you have an injury anywhere in your team, essentially, Kurt Mann will either come in to fill that role or come in to fill a role for someone else that you've moved to cover that injured spot. And then Tyson Gamble comes straight into the 14.
Yeah, they're looking, it's a good situation to be in for the Knights.
How's that 650 looking?
I don't mind it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say to you I'm declaring the Knights will make the 8 next year. But mate, I think if they finish below 10th, I think that is a huge disappointment for this side.
I think put it this way, I think they'll be ahead of the Dolphins, who are $6.
Who are $6, yeah. Fucking atrocious. I've right now, as I sit here and I look at this side, I've definitely got them in front of the Dolphins. I think I've got them in front of the Titans.
Yeah.
Canterbury, I'm not sure.
Canterbury are going to be a good one this year.
Canterbury are going to be a good
I can't
side.
wait for Canterbury, and I don't think I've ever said this for 10 years, but I can't wait for the Tigers this year.
Yeah, and that's where it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But I look at the Tigers and I look at the Manly Seagulls, who I think are teams that can improve out of sight, and I just wonder if off-field stuff could potentially hold them back still.
But I've got the Knights over like the Dragons, for example.
Well, I would have this Newcastle side also over the Dragons.
Yep.
I'd have them over the Warriors.
Yep. Warriors have recruited. I forgot how well they've recruited. They've just they've released.
Also lost a fair few.
They have, but they've released their new recruits on Instagram the last couple of days. I'm thinking, yeah, not bad.
There's some handy players there.
Yeah.
There is some handy players there, but they have also let go of a couple of handy players, and even just one in particular last year when it looked like they were going to score points. It always felt like it was coming from Reece Walsh.
Yeah,
that's
true.
my only worry. So, I mean, I've just named 4 teams there that I think this Newcastle Knights side will get in front of, pending injuries and everything like that. But I think they will be big improvers.
Yep.
Crystal ball out, if you had to give me a number on the ladder that they finish, I'm going to say 9th, 10th. 9th or 10th would be where I've got them at the moment. Where have you got them?
Yeah, I've got them just missing. Obviously, we'll have a deeper look at every squad, but just vibing it. The first number that came to my head then was 10th.
10th.
But it's weird because 2 years ago they came 7th and 7th. So maybe 10th isn't good enough for the Knights.
And that's what people forget. When they had a halfback, they played finals footy 2 years on the trot.
Yeah, exactly right. So, yeah, 650, not bad. I don't mind it.
I think it's great, mate.
I don't mind it.
I had a real whack at it. So fingers crossed. Matty, thanks for joining us once again, legend. Guys, we will be back for the off-season on Sunday night. Jackson Hastings joining us once again to go through the best ball-playing forwards of all time. Matty, was this our best one yet, do you reckon?
Yeah, for sure. It's fucking outstanding.
It's right up our alley, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fun to research, fun to talk about, and I'm sure it'll be fun for all of you to listen to.
Yeah, it'll be a cracker. We'll see you Sunday night, 6 p.m.